Hello, welcome to the Influential Executive Podcast. This is Alexander Kane speaking, and in today's interview you will meet Filip Van Houte. Filip Van Houte is known for his beautiful hats. His wall is full with hats, and especially for our interview he's wearing the most beautiful one. We speak about productivity, probably one of the least sexy topics in business, and at the same time one of the most powerful ones. For all of you purpose-driven entrepreneurs out there, I know you are there looking to make an impact. And if you want to make an impact, it's about leveraging the time, money, energy you have for maximum result. No excuses, pure focus on how to get as much as possible done with minimum effort. Simple as that. That's what Filip specializes in, so that's what you can expect today. This interview is packed with tips and insights, questions for you to ponder, and my wish for you is to walk away after this interview with one idea, one thing you want to change, one thing you want to reflect on, one thing you want to experiment with, implement right now today, just to see what happens. Because every change starts with one new decision. This interview is sponsored by me, Alexander Kane. You know me from Earn More, Work Less, and I've been going through quite a transformational period. More on that later, but here's a short story. I'm creating a new organization, the Win Mastermind. I'm collecting purpose-driven individuals, entrepreneurs into a mastermind group, a networking group with the sole purpose to help each other. We are out to demonstrate that givers are winners. We're a network of givers because we understand we are all one. That is what we're working on, Win Mastermind. So I'm going to continue building this company, give you great podcasts, because I know that this education is going to help you to make a bigger impact. That's all for now. Enjoy the interview with Filip Van Houte. Welcome to the Influential Executive Podcast.
Glad to be on the show, man.
I'm very excited about this conversation because this is one productivity guy with the other productivity guy. And here's immediately my most important question. Filip, can you please help me make productivity a little bit sexy as a topic? Because nobody seems to really care.
Well, as long as I don't have to strip, it's it's fine. That is a kind of thing that the things that are not sexy are oftentimes the most effective and most efficient. So that's why maybe you also focus on habits and productivity. So maybe it's not shiny and interesting in the short term, but if you really use and that is how I look at productivity, your focus, time and energy wisely, and you install the right habits and systems, you can look at it as compound interest. It's not a lot that you get each day, but if you have that like each day over a year, over 5 years, over 10 years, you can have a massive difference in results than people who are not productive or not using their time, focus, energy, or money wisely.
Yeah. The entrepreneurs that come to you for help, that say, okay, I'm ready to open my mind, open my ears, and learn about productivity. What is typically their reason for coming to you?
They're overwhelmed. They are often just like you, purpose-driven, impact-driven. They really want to make a difference and make a change in other people, their lives with their service. But they have almost no life outside of work. And a lot of their self-identity comes from association with hard work. They're a bit like workaholics, which is not seen as kind of an addiction, but in a way it is kind of an addiction. Anytime you want to get self-esteem or validation, you always go to work. Let me work more. Let me just be busy. Let me just be active. So in a way, it's for them to open up the perspective about a productive day or a productive business, which is not just about the money or clients, but just about doing what you said you would do in the time that you promised you would, and using your time wisely, that you can have a more, not balanced, because I don't really believe in balance, but a more harmonious life, that they don't have to sacrifice quality time or social time with their friends, partner, or family, or have to sacrifice sleep, or feel that they're always sacrificing the present for a future that never seems to come. So that's what I want to help them focus on, like work less, earn more, reclaim time, so they get even more done in less time, and they can work on some skills or some things they always wanted to do, but they just can't seem to find the time for it because they can't seem to end their day feeling fulfilled.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that, in my experience, every entrepreneur needs to figure this stuff out at some point in their journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been speaking to entrepreneurs of all kinds of maturity levels recently. As I'm building the Win Mastermind group, there's starting out entrepreneurs who say, you know what, I just quit my job. This is what I'm going to build. I'm on fire, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
And there's entrepreneurs who say, you know, I built a business, I sold it, I'm building the next one. And it's typically the second group that speaks a lot more about their habits and about having other things in life and about living in harmony. Is it also your experience that, like, or let me ask it differently.
Mm-hmm.
When did you realize that you need to figure this stuff out for yourself?
I had a foreign girlfriend back then, and I flew to see her, and we had a long distance relationship, and it was a pattern that kept on manifesting, that she told me like, you're present, but you're not really present. So either I was with her and my mind was on work, or my mind was on work and I was feeling guilty that I wasn't fully present with her. And always I thought, I need a little bit more time. I just need to finish this. But anytime that something repeatedly happens, I say one time is maybe chance, 2 times is a coincidence, 3 times really is a pattern. I always kept on postponing, just need a little bit of time, just need to finish this. So I kept on using like work as a default mechanism, saying like, yeah, honey, we will watch a movie or we will chill, and I just need half an hour, just need an hour. And it just became like a pattern that I was putting valuable relationships and maybe self-care and a relationship with myself on hold. So then I saw like, okay, this is the relationship I have with people, and I felt like lonely and isolated, and I got only my validation from work. So then I was like, I have to do something about it, because I feel that I started the journey to make an impact into other people, their life, but I'm not really making myself fulfilled or the people who care about me. So that was like a breaking point for me to suddenly use my time, focus, and energy more wisely, that I could be more present and fully present and say like, I did what I had to do. I was productive. Let's call it a day, and then be fully fulfilled and present without a feeling of guilt of having without things left undone.
Yeah. It sounds like something shifted in your order of priorities. Something became more important than something else. Is it right that you experience it that way?
I think that often manifests itself when people have a one-sided pillar foundation of self-esteem. So I think a lot of men, they try to prove themselves first through the body with doing exercise or losing weight, and they feel good. And then their entire sense of validation is through exercise or through sport. And then I feel the universe is not short on wake-up calls, but we're quick to hit the snooze button. That is what Brené Brown also says. So if your whole foundation is built on one pillar, like I only get my validation from this girlfriend, I only get my validation from my work, I only get my validation from my exercise or my body, at a certain point, the universe will reflect back on you like this is not sustainable, and you will crash with a burnout, with a depression, end of a relationship, an injury, and your whole world crumbles. Why? Because there's no harmony between the different pillars in your life. So that has happened first with the body, then has happened with like relationships and work. And that is a way of, just as you said, oftentimes when it's too late, that's why often people have to hit rock bottom to change their life, because then the momentum is so big that they say like, fuck it, I have to try something else, that they finally find more harmony again.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And this means that our automatic pilot or subconscious mind needs to be reprogrammed. Right? It's about making different choices in dozens, if not hundreds of moments, little moments during the day, instead of doing what we normally do, doing something slightly different. Uh, What is your approach in helping people to change their habits? Probably the most difficult thing in the world.
I think the most difficult thing in the world is not to change habits unless you see changing thoughts and your mindset as habits. I think that's even more difficult because habits are an action thing. And when you really delve deep, and I don't delve this personally in my coaching, but I hired a therapist this year, and I think personal problems will manifest themselves in your business. So you can never make up with an action what you kind of lack on a deep inner state about your childhood wounds or deep unresolved patterns from your childhood. But when we talk about, so those things are also very important because you will act out unresolved wounds in your relationships, even with your clients, in your service and your self-talk. So changing these things is also difficult because we have so many repetitions of using that one single strategy from our childhood as a default coping mechanism, even though we're mature now and you have a lot more options. So that's just one thing I want to put out there. I personally focus on habits and systems. Why? Because these things indeed are deeply ingrained. So anything that costs a lot of willpower or demands choice and decisions will make it harder to do because we have to keep on exerting energy, willpower, decision towards making the choice. So anytime we can make it into a commitment, non-negotiable, you're going to do it whether you feel like it or not. It's a system, it's a habit, it makes it easier. So when you associate habits with the identity of the person you want to become, and it makes it easier and easier by frequency and repetition, and you leave no wiggle room, which means you make it as specific as possible if you can, which means saying when you're going to do it and how you're going to do it, so you don't have to decide anymore. That will create more autopilot repetitions or behavior, but it still will take time to become easier and easier because you have been doing things in an other fashion for such a long time. So you can't expect these things to change instantly.
Yeah, indeed. Repetition is needed to make those new neural pathways in the mind. And there's a strong motivation needed, a big fat why to keep exerting that energy every day and building those new patterns. What are typically the biggest whys that you find for people like your most successful clients? What is it that drives them? Why do they succeed in making these changes?
Well, that's two questions. I would say that the most services that client-centered coaches, consultants, or other human-centered services revolve around is kind of self-centered. We want to teach people faster, quicker, easier what we had to learn the hard way. And because it's so important to us, we want to see our mind state reflected by us coaching it to other people. Which is good because that's integrity. We've been through it. We know what it's like. We can sympathize, empathize with our clients, but we just figured out some ways like how to do it. The problem is that we already are at the end stage. So if we're not mindful, we can just say, hey, I'm just going to explain this once and the client should get it, not realizing that we had to go through the process ourselves. So indeed, we can make it faster or quicker, but it's still like a journey to achieve or realize what we had to do by ourselves, maybe slower or more isolated without coaching or mentorship from someone.
Yeah. How important is empathy in this process?
Empathy is one of the most underestimated aspects they call it high achievers, but high achievers is just a way of not calling people workaholics. Because high achiever sounds good and it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, you work a lot, but actually we work too much. And it's just because a big part of what we do is tied with our action. And there's a lot of high achievers which are perfectionists. So I'm guilty of it myself. So it's a constant self-care and empathy practice to not project the self-criticism or harsh talk that we have towards ourselves, towards our clients or relationships, because we will keep on perpetuating what is going on in our mind. So one of my quotes is, be soft on yourself, be hard on your principles. So the soft on yourself is, don't make it all about you or your self-esteem or your total personality, but have some principles or values that you stand by, whether you feel like it or not. And that is important when you want to get things done, but not have all your self-identity or gratification or fulfillment just from your work or what you do. Also focusing on your intention and who you are is important.
In my experience, most people are so harsh on themselves. Like if that voice in their minds would be a friend, they would never want to call them again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. We are our own harshest critics sometimes. And if you ask the question, what would you say to a friend? We know the perfect answer, but we're not so compassionate towards ourselves.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one. I started to experiment myself with purely letting go. I tell myself dozens of times per day, let it go, surrender, let it go. Stay present here and now. Whatever you're thinking right now, it's not a thought. 99.9% of thoughts are not true. Just let it go, back to the present moment. It's still, it's related to productivity in a way, but it's a completely different experience.
Your reality will be kind of a manifestation of your most dominant thoughts. So a lot of times we will say, I will only prioritize self-care or relationships when I'm productive, not realizing that when we prioritize relationships and self-care, we are more productive or good things will happen. So we kind of got it backwards, that I've been through it myself, that when I'm in a good space and a good mind space and I'm expecting positive things happen. But when I'm more in an, especially in the beginning from my entrepreneurship, like desperate for clients or desperate for something to succeed, then it kind of gets thrown back on you, you know, and things seem to fail and it becomes like a roller coaster. So managing your emotional state, your feelings and your self-talk is super crucial. Even though you think it's personal, it will manifest itself in other areas of your life.
Managing your emotional state. Like, when I realized that that is really my first priority, other than anything on my to-do list, everything changed. I started to focus inward instead of outward. I saw on Facebook that you watched The Secret recently. Let's speak about the emotional state. How did you experience the movie?
Well, I only watched half the movie, but there is no such thing as like an objective reality. There's a subjective interpretation of reality, and then we're looking for proof of the thoughts that we already have. So it demands a certain belief in a new way of being and having like trust, because I love the thing in the movie that they said there's like a time delay between the thoughts you put out and then the reality. That's kind of proof of, I mean, oftentimes we think like reality is like this, so I think like this, while you could also look at reality is showing up this way, so this is a reflection of how I'm thinking. You kind of can take responsibility for your own way of interpreting things and what you put out. So I think even though it's true or not true, it doesn't matter. It's a very empowering perspective of what you choose to pay attention to, because even look at this language. We pay attention, we invest time, we save time, we waste time. Time is kind of like a currency, and we pay with our attention or our focus. And that way it gets reflected back on us. So we can never look at all the things on reality. We make a selection of it. So it really is important to choose what you want to focus on. So your own positive mind state and focus, combined with having a realistic perspective of not expecting everything to be positive and learning how to deal with improvement opportunities, let's say, than calling it negative, I think it's very empowering. One of the things that often is mistaken, that law of attraction is just about positive thinking. And that's where my realistic side sometimes comes out, that sometimes positive people are not so positive about negative things or negative feelings. While negative things can also provide great feedback and learning experiences, just as in a movie, you want some drama or you want some up and downs to learn from it. So that's an empowering perspective, I think. It's not just think and you create, it's think, do, and create. And it's not just think and grow rich, it's sometimes also overthink and grow poor.
Yeah. Well, What is really interesting is that we speak about productivity, how to get more done, and an outsider would expect a conversation about how to make a perfect planning, which which app to use for your to-dos. And here we are speaking about thoughts, emotions, creating reality. Like when did you discover that it's more about these things than it is about making a planning?
At a certain point, you want to take responsibility for the way that you're thinking, and you want to ask yourself, is this belief serving me or not? And am I constantly looking for proof of something that I actually don't want to find? Which I've been through a lot, because a lot of times, and this is what I call, and sometimes information masturbation or infobesity. We know things, we can talk about it for hours, but really delving into the psyche or doing the vulnerable work, often the vulnerable work is the hard work. Planning things and being productive is not hard for me. Writing in a gratitude journal, doing my psychological exercises, there's a lot of resistance towards doing that. So that's a lot more hard work than actually doing the plan, which we can delve into like later. So what is life if you're not fulfilled and satisfied, and if you're not able to share your happiness and fulfillment and meaning with other people? Like, when is it finally going to be enough? So you want to find a balance between self-development and self-acceptance, of going and growing and learning, but also saying it's fine now, and finding a piece of quiet in yourself, which I'm still learning because I'm more fire in self-development than learning. But if it's serving you, then it's fine. But just as I talked about workaholicism or always using work as a status symbol or as a way of self-esteem, you want to ask yourself, is this an addiction or not? And the easy question with an addiction is, am I doing it despite negative consequences? Is it my default way of always coping and clinging to it? What people have with cigarettes, with alcohol, with porn. So if you see like this is always my way of dealing with uncomfortable feelings and a way to hide, then it's kind of like an addiction. Let me have this integrate in a more healthy and harmonious way into my life.
One keyword you mentioned here is responsibility. The willingness to take responsibility for everything that's going on in your life. Not just when it's comfortable, not just when it already fits the story you made up in your mind, but everything. And once you're willing to do that, I remember when I made that decision, everything changed. Of course, there's more painful moments because you need to admit to yourself that you do some things maybe suboptimally. There's a lot of empowerment in there as well.
Well, that's often the most, and it was the first video I ever made on my former YouTube channel. The most empowering and most painful moment in your life will be when you realize that most of your suffering is self-inflicted. So you feel guilty, but it's also very empowering because you realize it's under your control. So that is like very empowering, despite the fact that you blame yourself or feel guilty, but you know that the future can be better and you can take responsibility for how you interpret events and what you decide to focus on.
Exactly. When did you make that decision for yourself to live on purpose? To question everything you learned about the system and how things are supposed to be versus what you experienced in real life?
Well, before I lose my track, because it was an important point that I want to make, especially for people who are entrepreneurs, is that a bridge to learn how to deal with your self-talk and how you talk to other people is communication with yourself and communication with other people. So what we often have as entrepreneurs is loneliness, or we feel isolated. But often we isolate ourselves because we've been rebels, we've been creative, we've been misunderstood. People didn't get us. We were at school. I was like looking at the clock every 5 minutes because I was more about asking questions than about giving answers. I was a rebel, and I never needed school actually to study. So there's a lot of fighting against the system kind of thing. I will do it myself. I will take responsibility, which is good for the perseverance and willpower, but you can have a false superiority, a lack of connection, a fighter mentality that is not serving you anymore. And then you want to learn how to connect again and feel connected with yourself and with other people while still having that perseverance to go for what you want, think long term, and delay gratification, which I think is all important as an entrepreneur, especially the first years when you're still trying to figure out your business and your why.
Yeah. Let's pick apart this word productivity a bit more. Your Facebook group is called Productivity Secrets for Entrepreneurs. Work less, earn more, reclaim time. Those are quite some promises. What is your definition of productivity?
Doing what you said you would do in the time you promised you would.
Interesting. So it's about doing. And
doing in a way that is not only focused on work, but, you know, managing your focus time and energy in a way that you feel fulfilled at the end of the day, which is a subjective thing. You can set your expectations. I mean, people can overplan, people can underplan, they can have too much expectations, too low expectations. It depends on what productivity means to them and what would be a fulfilling life or a fulfilling day for them. So that is a bit up to interpretation. But I feel when you feel the day when you end the day not feeling fulfilled, there's a mismatch between what you said you would do or promised what you would do and what you actually did. So if you can make that a bit more productive, that it's aligned with integrity, you know, that's kind of what productivity means for me. But productivity for me, when I worked with my clients, I kind of divide life into key areas, which is, I'm trying to remember it all: work, career, finances, personal growth, physical health, mental health, spirituality, fun and recreation, social relationships, and love relationships. So if they dedicate time towards the key areas in their life that they're motivated to change and they find important, that's very productive because they're working on something that is important to them. And they feel like, yeah, you know, I worked on areas in my life that are meaningful to me. So it's not just about work. It's about dedicating time to the things that are really important to you and also making sure that you spend the time working on those things if you find them important.
Yeah, interesting. I quickly thought about what I would give as a definition. I didn't give that much thought yet, but the first thing that comes to mind, productivity for me would be to make something that first wasn't there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Then you adding the fulfillment part, yeah, that makes it indeed about like true productivity, integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the difference then between productivity and creativity?
Creativity is a bit more free flowing. There's less pressure about it. There's more flow in it. There's more dancing with it. So you want to do it and I'm going to dedicate time to dance, but the outcome is like less important, but you know that the whole dancing is important to your life or you love to play. So that playful element or that freedom within constraints, because you're most creative when you put constraints around something, I think, just as when you have a game, that a game without rules is not really interesting. It kind of makes people creative. That kind of is the difference between creativity and productivity. Because important thing about productivity when it comes to work or what makes an impact in your business and you really want to move forward is the consistency. And what is going to help you become consistent is doing something whether you feel like it or not, which is not manageable when you want to do this 8 hours, 10 hours, 14 hours, if you work so much in a day, because our willpower and our energy is limited. But if we can make things into a commitment or a habit or a system, and we know I'm going to work on these things because they are important, and I made this commitment once and now I'm going to do it every day or always these days, that removes a bit of the decision power, you know, and maybe less of the creativity, but it makes you be productive because you do what you have to do, whether you feel like it or not. Because it's one of the most biggest myths that are out there. I have to be motivated to do something. You can't make yourself motivated. You can remind yourself of your why and your purpose as a kind of drive, or you can indirectly influence your motivation by influencing your energy. Because the chances that you're motivated, enthusiastic are bigger when you have more energy. So that's more working on your emotional or on your physical state. So that's possible. But forcing motivation always to be there, it doesn't often happen that way. It's often the other way, that we remind ourselves of our purpose or why we get started, or when we got the momentum going of getting started, then we kind of feel motivated because we got going.
Yeah. Keyword also momentum. You're a productivity expert, and I follow you on Facebook.
Yeah.
But I see a lot of information coming by also about sales, about building relationships. How are all of these things related?
There are 6 elements that everybody should invest in to leverage their business or their personal life. And these are focus, time, energy, skills, relationships, and money. I'm going to repeat it. I call it like F terms: focus, time, energy, relationships, money, and skills. And these are intertwined, because if you use your focus wisely, you can reclaim more time. If you can have more money, you can delegate and get time back, or be more focused because you can do the things that you really like. If you invest in more skills, maybe you can ask more money, or you can work more effectively. If you invest in relationships, maybe it influences your energy, so you feel better. So these are really the 6 things in life that people can really leverage to get ahead of other people, combined with habits. So that's why if somebody is not productive and not making the best use of their focus, time, and energy, I help them set up habits in their personal life and systems in their business. If they feel like this is going pretty well, this is a great foundation, then I help them. If they're a client-centered, value-driven entrepreneur, coaches, consultant, or a small business, I help them get clients consistently by focusing on how to attract ideal clients, master the sales conversation, and overcome objections. By giving them some tools, how they can produce consistent content, pre-qualify, have a kind of structure to lead the sales conversation, and then I don't like the word close. I love staying close to clients and then seeing if it's a match, and then offering them an awesome opportunity and helping them make a decision that benefits them, which I think sales should be about, and then decide to work with people and really create an impact. So that's why I help people reclaim time and be more productive. But it kind of is a two-way street, that when you have more money, you're more free-flowing, your energy is better, you can delegate things, you can do more stuff that you like. On the other hand, if you use your time well and you focus on energy, often, you can also make more money and get a lot more done in less time. So that's why I kind of focus on these things, and depending on where an entrepreneur is at and what they need, because I'm all about practical stuff, no fluff, giving them ways that they can replicate what I learned by myself. They can really leverage their business or their personal life. So that's kind of what I focus on.
Makes a lot of sense. Habits and systems you mentioned. Habits on a personal level, systems on an organizational level. First of all, habits. Every purpose-driven entrepreneur listening to this thinking, I can make some progress in terms of my productivity. Which are 5 types of habits, or maybe even specific habits, that in your opinion are a must for anyone who truly wants to live on purpose?
Well, the basic habits are, and I think most people who listen to this know this, I don't know if they do it, but the number one thing, and they often call it the keystone habit. Keystone is like kind of the stone that holds an arch together and is like basically the foundation of a monument, is sleep, or exercise, or nutrition. That kind of gives you the fuel and the energy and the self-care to really be productive. So that is super essential. And any kind of meditation, any kind of play, any kind of relaxation is also super crucial. So if meditation is too difficult for you, maybe you can find something else to be in the moment. Maybe doing salsa, dancing, painting, something creative. So to balance out the rational mind and always the performance, achievement kind of mindset, anything that is a bit more playful, kind of relaxing is super essential. And then some kind of social habit, feeling part of something bigger than yourself, having a support system, having some accountability. So I think sleep, exercise, food, and then on the other hand, something that helps you be present, either with play, creativity, or meditation. And then a social habit, something that you regularly see people or check in with people, I think those things are really essential as a foundation to be productive and have some good habits in place.
Very cool. Very cool. Again, it has nothing to do with you need to make your planning for tomorrow the evening before. These are again focused on making this whole system operate well in the long term.
Well, you asked me the priorities. So the priority should be making sure that these are like the essential habits, I think, combined with a morning routine and an evening routine. While you want to build up energy in the beginning of the day, I think another misconception is people doing things in the morning routine that are work related and don't build up that energy. I mean, that's not a morning routine according to me. I mean, it could be, it's a matter of interpretation, but it should be something fun or you don't dread towards doing. Some things takes time before you like it. But if you're going to meditate and you keep on dreading to do it, you have to ask yourself the question, is the dread, is the demotivation I get from having to meditate really compensated by how I feel after the meditation or not? If after a while, 3 weeks, a month, you still feel that you're drained and not energized, maybe you should just do some trampoline jumping or some rolling or strolling or something creative or a cold shower. Because for you right now, this habit, even though all top performers are meditating, maybe that's not the right thing. So something that helps you jumpstart your brain in the morning and start the day looking forward to it. I think that's pretty important. Just something that you look forward and feel more free and energized in the beginning. And the evening routine should be, because a lot of people ask like, I can't sleep well. Well, then my question is very simple. Tell me what you do the hour before you go to sleep on average. 95% of the time, the answer will be there. They're scrolling YouTube, checking their smartphone, bright light, etc. There's nothing that gives an indication to the mind or the body that it's preparing to go to sleep. There's nothing to relax or wind down or ease. So if your body and mind are not getting any signals that you're ready to go to sleep, you can't expect your whole body to be like an on-off switch. It's more like a dim switch. So you have to prepare your body to go to sleep, fall asleep, and relax and have a fulfilling feeling. So I have a whole routine then to go from the analytical planning, what you said, most important task, planning the next day, being more grateful, being more positive, and then more playful, fun stuff or relaxing stuff at the end of the day. Because productivity doesn't start the day itself, it always starts the day before. So besides the essential habits that I gave, and I also have the systems or habits, how to manage focus, time, and energy and be productive, those morning routines, evening routines, and essential self-care or keystone habits are super crucial.
Yeah. I like it. Build up momentum in the morning, slow it down in the evening, and that's how you create balance.
Well, a misconception about productivity is that people look at productivity as time management, but it's not time management. It's more willpower / energy management. You want to take a look at it as that, as willpower or energy management. So you want to find an environment, a way of fluctuating. Peter Drucker also talked about it, about there's often a lot of time toward working, but no time for rejuvenation or replenishing your willpower and your energy. So exercise, meeting friends, taking a nap, meditation, things that restore willpower after an intense period of focus is super crucial. So instead of looking at that time management and planning, which is important, you also want to take a look at it as a nice rhythm that makes you be productive. And gradually, for most people, because I also don't believe that all people have to be an early riser. I think people have to do the most important things or most willpower draining things as early as possible after they wake up. It doesn't mean that you have to get up at 5. I see the advantages, but it doesn't necessarily have to be this way. But for most people, as the day advances, there's more and more distractions. There's more and more decision fatigue. So you want to do the more distracting things, the more things that are not so crucial for your business and will maybe drain you or distract you later in the day. So what I advise my clients is to use 4 hours of a day, really focusing on the hits, the high impact tasks, and get those things done as early as possible, because as the day progresses, often things pop up or the doors of distraction open up, and then you're not able to work as effectively and efficiently as you can.
Yeah. Let's move to the systems side of things. So habits are for the personal side, systems are for the business side. I think it was today or maybe yesterday you highlighted one thing in your Facebook group about the importance of KPIs and how they are often missing. Can you spend a few words on that?
It's very difficult to evaluate something if we're not regularly giving ourselves feedback or reviewing things. And to be able to review things or give yourself feedback on things, you need to have certain metrics that you keep track of, and then you regularly review. You don't have to check it like a maniac or every week and then adapt every week. I mean, you will be all over the place, but it's pretty good to just have some key metrics to check and then do a review every month, 3 months or 6 months. I have a rule of 3, max 5. Mostly it's 3. 3 is nice. It's not overwhelming, but just choose 3 key areas. Choose 3 most important tasks or hits high impact tasks, max 5. So track these things and see if it's really beneficial. Because sometimes we track things, but we want to ask ourselves, why are we tracking these things? Because tracking to track doesn't make any sense. It kind of gives tracking credit or planning credit. Oh, I did so much things, I've written it down, or I put like an X there. Yes, but if it's not serving us, we got to ask ourselves, what are we measuring? So I made also the comparison with some clients that I coach, and he's a sales coach, and he promises people to make 20% more sales or more high converting leads, or a faster closing ratio. These are all great value propositions, but you want to be able to actually prove that you did what you promised. And to be able to prove that, you need metrics. You need to tell to the client or to the company like, hey, can you give me the amount of sales you made, or the average time it takes to make a sale, or how much of your leads actually turn into a close, or how much time goes towards prospecting. Like these metrics, both for your clients, if you're like a sales coach or any other service that you offer, or for your own business. If you have a small business, like maybe make it fun, like employee of the month, maximum sale made in the company, like you can always gamify it. But the value also of systems and habits is that it's not personal. If you make a habit of checking in with people like, hey, can I help you? How are you feeling? You will also have uncomfortable discussions, but it's within a habit of checking in with people. Or if you have these figures, because often people only do it when actually, they have negative feedback or negative experiences, and then people feel controlled, feel watched. Yeah. But when you make things into a system or in a mission statement or in a habit, you kind of make it like, this is how we do things, when we give ourselves feedback, and you also have crystal clarity what we do here. So I think that habits, systems, and also key performance indicators are pretty important just to give yourself feedback. But goals can be fun and can be something that motivates you, but I believe a lot more in habits and lifestyle changes, because they are more sustainable. They are more something that you keep up. So one of the misconceptions also is about how long does it take to build a habit? The question itself is asked in a way like, when should I stop worrying about my lifestyle or my habits? The question is never, but it becomes like easier. There never is kind of like a finish line. That is just a way of running, the way of being, a way of organizing your life. Plus it depends on the frequency, the intensity of your habit, how easy it is combinable with another habit that is already going well. There's a lot of different things that demand on how long it takes to build a habit, because it's often like 21 days or 66 days. But that is really not relevant. You just want to focus on the frequency and doing the things that are important to you and just keep on repeating them. It becomes easier. But I always find it difficult to say habits become automatic, because that will mean I don't have to worry about it anymore. And I think it's important to be conscious of what you do, because I think your listeners have been there. I've been there. It's not always about reinventing habits. It's good to reflect also, even with key performance indicators, to ask yourself the question, what am I not doing right now that used to work for me really well and help me become more happy, healthy, productive or fulfilled. And then you don't have to find new things. You just have to pick up things that you kind of lost in the progress and you dropped. And then you have to learn how to pick it up again and get going.
I love that question. It's very simple, and just one simple answer can make you massively more productive and fulfilled. All you need to do is ask that question and do a bit of mental effort to actually dig down in your memory and think about the right answer for you.
Yeah, but it's also realistic for people, because sometimes people feel guilty about, I used to be so fit and look at me now, I dropped all my gains, or I used to be like this, but we're all a work in progress. And just because you lost something doesn't mean you lost something completely, both in a good way, like I can have that good thing from in the past again, but also in a bad way. If you're ever like triggered or addicted to something and thinking like, oh, I will never be tempted again, or it's not a part of me anymore, it's still within you. So it's both a good reminder for good things we can pick up again, or bad things that are in the back of our brain, and could be tempted again. So it demands some awareness and reflection and a review sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. We're almost ready for our last round, special round. I always close off the interviews with the rapid fire question round. So I'm planting the seed right here so you can mentally prepare to be on top of your game. But first, there's one thing I like to clarify, and that's the word systems. Because I learned with all the entrepreneurs I spoke to, practically all of them, when I speak about implementing systems, the image in their mind looks more like a CRM system than like a set of agreements. What is your definition of implementing systems in an organization? What is the image that people can put into their minds when thinking of those systems?
It's a good question. I see kind of systems as what habits are to your personal life. Systems are kind of the things for the entrepreneurs than the things in their business. So ways of behaving, actions that you do in your personal life are kind of what I call habits. Things that you repeatedly do in your business and give you the results you're looking for or can make it easier. That's kind of systems. Prospecting systems, sales conversation systems, your CRM systems, the apps that you use can be systems. So anything you repeatedly do and that help you remove decision power and make it replicable, for me, are like systems. That's kind of why I use systems for business and habits in your personal life.
I like it. Makes a lot of sense. And it immediately reminds me of the quote from Aristotle.
Yeah.
We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. Are you ready for the rapid fire question round?
Yeah, man, let's do it. Let's bring the fire.
So the challenge is to answer by one word alone.
Okay.
Or a term if two words really belong together. I'm going to throw out a few words at first and then a few questions. And it's up to you to speak your mind.
I always speak my mind. I try to. Sometimes it works for me. Sometimes it works against me. So,
first word, leader.
Influence.
Productivity.
Fulfillment.
Team.
Cooperation.
Freedom.
Options.
Hat.
Dandy.
I'm sure you chose your most beautiful hat, especially for this interview, right?
I wanted to bring the sunshine, so I chose my yellow hat and my yellow shirt. So
looks great on you. I see you have a big choice behind you. There's at least 12 more of them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a whole other story. I used to be a hip hop MC and I used to make music. And the latest project I had was called Dandy Deluxe. So I love fairy tales. I'm obsessed with fairy tales and I love magic realism. For the people who are watching, like this is a Magritte mug. So that's when I started like dressing more like a dandy, something timeless, something absurd. And ever since then, I started dressing like that, buying secondhand jackets, buying hats that I've been wearing for years. So that's when I started to choose this style because I love this archetype, a bit absurd, a bit professional, a bit quirky. So
yeah, it's cool and makes you very recognizable. Next word, spirituality.
bypassing. I could explain what that means. I wanted to talk about the first word that comes up. Spirituality, I agree with what Brené Brown says, connecting with something bigger than yourself. So I love spirituality, but I find sometimes spirituality is used as a way to shortcut our pain and unresolved wounds. So self-development is a crucial pillar. Spirituality, being present, connecting with something bigger than yourself, is super crucial. But often the point that I find is missing, both in self-development and spirituality, is shadow work or psychology, dealing with childhood issues, inner child, these things. So if we're going to compensate by self-development and working, or we're going to overcompensate by a spiritual ego, spiritual identity, we're kind of not integrating the shadow and also the psychology. So that's why that term came up, because I think it's crucial to also work on your psychology and child and shadow work.
Talk about doing the hard work. Shadow work is probably the hardest work there is. I started it a couple of months ago. An online course was created by Scott Jeffrey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been fascinating because right now, hearing myself think things and speak things, I no longer just go with it. I ask myself, who is speaking right now? When did this voice get programmed into my mind?
Man, I love this topic. I could fill a whole other podcast about this, because this is basically the process that I also use with my therapist. It's called voice dialogue, and people can look at it. We are not just one self. We are different kind of archetypes and voices within us that are governing us. So I named them: the sexual predator, the anxious control freak, the archiving librarian, the willful addict, all these kind of archetypes and impulses and ways of being that just have a favorite strategy of expressing themselves from the past, but actually have more overarching needs, have certain ways of thinking, but I can replace them with better thoughts. That opens up the possibility of having a dialogue with yourself. Because often when we talk to ourselves, it's not a conversation, it's a monologue, or it's a command. So when we open up towards asking questions or deeper whys, like I feel like this, first listening and then asking like deeper whys to yourself, you can really uncover the deeper why, the needs, and find maybe some more helpful strategies to express it. So there's a lot of value in looking at your patterns and the different archetypes, kind of like in a Jungian way, that are living in yourself and being expressed and triggered by a situation. And first becoming aware, and then stepping in between stimulus and response and choosing more empowered ways of dealing with that trigger or pain or need.
Yeah, that's some next level stuff. Very powerful. We have a few more words. Free time.
Enjoyment.
Sport.
Force.
Inspiration.
Guidance.
Dream.
Imagination.
What is the purpose of life?
Meaning.
What is the most beautiful organization that's currently operating on our planet?
That is very difficult to answer. I can just tell you what, according to me, is very important. Anything that helps people exchange ideas and arguments in a constructive way and focuses on mutual responsibility is super crucial now, I think. So I know I kind of went way overboard with the words, but I think we are social creatures and we don't know everything. We have to learn. So the only way how we can learn is mutual responsibility, learning from others, and using speech, debates, and connection with others to learn more about ourselves and others. So any organization that does that, I think, is super crucial.
Cool. Maybe it's projection, but sounds like to me, like you were talking about the Win Mastermind. I don't know.
Exactly.
What is your favorite spare time hobby?
Reading fantasy and fiction books.
What's the best self-help book you ever read?
You would have to specify in a team, because I read so many books. So just choose a topic and then I can tell you one that is.
Which one do you feel strongest about?
Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and one that opened my self-development, which is not very known, but it deals with archetypes, with the hero's journey, with taking responsibility, with psychology, with anxiety. It's called, the titles are very related. It's Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Himself by Rollo May. That really inspired me a lot on a mythological level, psychological level, and taking responsibility level at the beginning of my self-development journey.
Awesome. What's currently on top of your bucket list?
Well, I'm finally in my third year of being an entrepreneur, and now business is going well. I would love for my business that I would be generating 5 figures consistently, not about the money, but that I could delegate more stuff. Not that I worry about money, but that I can put more things on autopilot, hire creative people who could spread my message so I can reach more people and I can inspire more people. So if you follow me, I'm always like a realistic entrepreneur. So I think the first 3 years of an entrepreneur are ups and downs. You know, you move forward, but it's like up and down of figuring everything out, your offer, the sales going well, productivity and marketing. So finally I found like consistency and momentum to find the best way that works for me. But when I would have a team and steady sales coming in, then I can develop more courses and impact more people to bring more value. So that will be great to have more freedom, time freedom, financial freedom, option freedom.
Exciting. It's going to happen. You're the productivity expert, so there's no doubt about it. Finally, what is the most inspirational movie that you want to recommend every listener to check out?
Inspirational movie. Groundhog Day.
Awesome. I love
Every
it.
day is I'm not going to tell you what the movie is about. Some people maybe know what the movie is about, but every day is Groundhog Day. Look at habits, your life, your way of interpreting reality as Groundhog Day. If you check the movie or have checked the movie, you will kind of know what I mean.
Yeah, when I was watching it first time when I was 10, I must say I didn't recognize that.
Have you watched it again?
I've seen that movie like 8 or 10 times because it was always on Dutch television. But it took me a few years, a little bit more wisdom, and I think eventually just reading it somewhere that I discovered, oh, there's a deeper meaning to it. It's not just a fairy tale.
Yeah, and it's connected to the law of attraction or The Secret if you kind of look how the movie progresses.
Yeah, indeed. Filip, thank you so much. I feel that this was a very rich conversation.
Productive.
Yeah, very productive. Yeah. Like we extracted a lot of value in a short amount of time. That's also the type of definition to think about. Now, for everyone who listened to this and who enjoyed this and thinks, hey, this Facebook group that Filip is talking about sounds quite interesting. And this whole productivity thing, there's a lot of value in there. Where do they go? How do people stay in touch with you?
Well, probably the show notes and the description of this episode. People can check out my social media. I have a Facebook group, Productivity Secrets for Entrepreneurs, that you can join. I have 30-day habit challenges every new month. Habit Challenges is the group on Facebook. You can find my name, Filip Van Houte, on YouTube. There I also put my content. And for people who just want to get something practical, super implementable, they can just go to habitbootcamps.com/focus finder. The best apps to find focus and remove distractions. You can implement it immediately. Half of the apps are free. They help me save time so much. And for people who want some good habit apps, the best apps to track, measure, and build habits, they can go to habitbootcamps.com/habit-hacker. So there they also find my social media at the end of the guide, and you can follow me there. And if you check this later than the podcast, I'm also launching my podcast in August, Expert Habits, where I'm going to have conversations with world-class experts about their habits and the insights that make them successful.
Sounds amazing. Thank you very much for being part of the podcast. I'll mention all of this in the show notes and make sure that people can find you.
Thanks for inviting me, and I wish you all the best, and good luck with the Win Mastermind, man.
Thank you very much. And that was Filip Van Houte. Man, I love it when somebody can just speak and not double check everything they say. Just let it flow, let it all out. Trust your automatic pilot. When you're a true expert, that's how it works. You can just let it flow. After the interview, Filip asked me, what resonated most with you? What sticks with you? My answer is that one question that he mentioned. What is that thing I did in the past? It gave me great results that I love doing, but somehow I stopped doing it along the way. I'm going to ponder that question this evening, and I hope, and deep inside I know, that an answer will pop up that I'm going to be very excited, very enthusiastic about. This interview was brought to you by Win Mastermind. Website is not yet live, but on earnmoreworkless.com you can find all of the other podcasts, blog articles, free resources, everything that has to do with optimizing your output. How to get more results with less effort. To stay in touch with Filip, you heard him, the Facebook group, what is the name? Productivity Secrets for Entrepreneurs, Earn More, Work Less, Reclaim Your Time. I will share the link in the show notes. He organizes the habit challenges. He's present on YouTube. And he mentioned his website with several habit building apps. Everything's going to be in the show notes. Thank you for joining this episode. I'm going to interview a whole bunch of other cool people, top experts in their field, to give you the things you need, the information, education you need to optimize your body, optimize your mind, so that you can live your purpose, so that you can make as much impact as you are destined to make. That's it for now. I wish you a beautiful day. Let's all go out, have fun, and create beautiful experiences.